Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Lake Worth Beach Utility City Commission meeting of Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Betty Resch,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sarah Maliga,
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Lake.
Commissioner Christopher McVoy,
Here.
Commissioner Mimi May,
Here.
Commissioner Ronaldo Diaz.
Here. Thank you. Ronaldo Diaz, Commissioner Diaz will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any? Maybe, oh, yeah, and church. Are there any additions, deletions, or reordering?
I have none, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we don't have to approve the agenda, so presentations. The electric utility update by Mr. Liberty.
Okay, is this working?
Yep.
Okay, great. We didn't have a meeting last month, so I've got a few things to go over, nothing urgent, but just to fill you in. We did attend the FMEA conference, and thank you to Mayor Resch, Vice Mayor Malega, and Commissioner May, who were at the meeting. I think they found it informative and well worth their while. One of the largest.
I'm sorry, what happened there? What happened to that meeting, bro?
It was very long, and I don't recall it all.
Any important votes?
There was an important vote taken. There was an important.
What was that important vote?
So as your representative, I was elected to the position of president-elect. It's quite an honor to be elected by your fellow leaders in the electric industry here in Florida. So FMEA is a tremendous organization, does an awful lot for folks behind the scenes. A lot of us don't see, but it's really our pathway, our vehicle to policymakers in Tallahassee and Washington. So it's a very important position for us to be involved with, very important organization. So we will use that, as best as we can for the interests of our customers and our residents and citizens, and also the ones that we serve outside the city. So it's a great opportunity.
Well, we're very proud of you.
Thank you very much for your support. One of the things that we did get to do, I was able to lead and present at a panel titled Investing in Tomorrow's Grid. So it's safe to say that we had a packed room for that particular presentation, and it was well received. And interesting to see what others, for example, New Smyrna Beach, OUC, and JEA, that's Orlando Utilities Commission, Jacksonville Electric Authority, are doing, as well as New Smyrna Beach, with the grid of tomorrow. So a lot of things happening, not just here in Lake Worth Beach, but across the state. Utilities investing in their infrastructure. So it happens in the municipal market, just as in the investor-owned market. We're not falling behind. We are investing. We're certainly doing our share. You all know that we're underway with a $100 million capital program. I say that not so much for you, but the folks listening at home, that we are investing in our infrastructure. We continue to make our general fund transfers. We continue to have very, very low rates. I also wanted to report along those lines that for the month of July, we were ranked number fourth lowest in the state for electric rates for the residential customer. So I can't guarantee that we'll stay there, but it is a good sign that we are that low. Just 7 years ago, we were ranked somewhere between 20th and 24th. And 2 years before that, there was a big move to have rate parity and achieve rate parity. So we have achieved that. We've been here for a while now, but I want to keep reinforcing it because there's still this old thinking that we have high rates.
Totally.
We have very, very competitive rates. Now, we'd like them to be lower if possible, but we provide very good value compared to other utilities around the state, certainly other utilities around the country. So that's has not been easy to take on the debt service for a $100 million capital program, plus what we'll be asking you for during the budget process for the future, and getting our rates down to this level. So we're doing the right things financially, we're doing the right things operationally, and we're getting the results that our customers should expect. And we'll continue to improve. We're not done. We have more work to do, but we're on the right path. Along those lines, we're going to talk more about solar tonight. I just wanted to point out that we've taken a very firm position with our partners in the Stanton Coal Unit to reaffirm that the retirement of Stanton number 1 will occur by the end of fiscal or calendar 25. wanted to make sure that OUC and FMPA understood that. FMPA clearly understands it, is very supportive, and is working on behalf of the members to ensure that that retirement date is honored as represented sort of by OUC, with the majority owner in the plant. OUC's staff, members that were at the recent FMPA board meeting reaffirmed their intent to retire that unit at the end of 2025. That's important for us because we've chosen to replace it with solar, and we're going to be talking more about solar contracts tonight. We're replacing that capacity with solar capacity, which will both add to our portfolio of solar, but it helps us get down the road towards our goal of carbon neutrality, where we want to be at 60% by, I think it's 2035, whatever it's. But it's an important part of who we are and what we want to have done. We'll talk more about PCA tonight, but our energy sales increased over June, in July, May, June, July. We saw increases of between close to 5% to a little over 15% increases in the amount of energy that went out to our customers. Our customer count is growing, but the energy used by our customers is growing faster than the count, and degree days grew dramatically. So with that, it was almost a 30% increase in degree days at 1 month, which drove large energy sales. So that will show up in more base revenues. We continue to work on our grant applications. As you know, we were awarded the GRIP grant, Grid Resilience Improvement Grant, Topic Area 2 for $23+ million. We're still in negotiation. There's no problems with the DOE. It's just the first time that they've taken on something this big. We're one of many utilities who were awarded grants, and we're working through the details of exactly how the grant process is going to work, how the payments will happen, what they were agreeing to do, matching it up with what their expectations are. A lot of it's about reporting information and how we'll be reimbursed. So it's just a matter of going through the process, but the grant is not at risk. We're just going through the process. In the meantime, we're still waiting for a response on our reapplication under Topic Area 1. We are optimistic, but let's wait and see if we're selected. Fingers crossed. And then we're also looking at additional grant opportunities. One is for a large EV charging network in the city, which we're going to pursue. We got word last week, I think some of you got word as well, that we got, I think, about $75,000 for an EV charging. We'll probably put that towards the EV chargers that are coming to City Hall. That project has begun. It starts with bringing 26 kV or 26,000 volt electric service to City Hall, because the existing 4,000 volt service here would not be sufficient. So we have to bring 26 kV to City Hall, convert City Hall to 26 kV. That will then give us the capacity to handle vehicle charging.
That means that the AC will work even better, right?
It'll spin faster.
Yeah.
But hopefully it works. To be determined. But the good news on that is it will be on a circuit that'll handle more power. That's good for us. It's also good for the people who run the 4 kV circuit who we're not part of anymore, right? But we are building out more and more customers on these individual 26 kV circuits, which increases the exposure to potential faults or a problem that would involve more customers. So while we create more space for growth on those 4 kV circuits, it adds risk and exposure from a reliability point of view. That really drives the effort to continue to do conversions, like the 6th Avenue South Substation project, which is underway. For those of you that have driven by, you may notice that it's not there anymore. The equipment has been removed. We did not scrap it. The transformer was moved to 15th Avenue South, where it'll see life as a spare for the 1970 vintage transformer that's there. So the two 1970 vintage transformers will sit side by side, and one's ready to go in case we need it. But we'll be saying
Cool
that.
guys.
Yeah. Right. So we have to keep working our way through the system. So I don't want to take up any more of your time unless you have questions. We'll get into it on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, wait, Mr. Liberty, can I just ask a quick question? I just wanted to know a little bit more about the conversion from coal to solar. And I obviously think it's a good idea. However, I wanted to know the difference in cost.
Very good point. So the coal plant that we're a part of is referred to as Stanton project, and it's actually Stanton number 1. There's a Stanton 2 that we're not a part of. We're in Stanton 1. We have 11 megawatt share of that. So the way that works is OUC owns the plant. FMPA has about a 30% share of the plant, and we have a piece of FMPA's piece, so that's how we participate. When that 11 megawatts, when that plant retires, that 11 megawatts goes away. That unit costs us roughly about $120 a megawatt hour. Roughly, these are very rough numbers. I have on my laptop, I hope to give it precisely, but it's about $50 per megawatt hour for the energy. And the fixed costs are about $60, $70 per megawatt hour in that range. The fixed costs would be things like fixed costs, things the same every month, whether the unit runs or not. And then the energy cost is the extra cost to incur, mostly fuel and transmission to get the power out of there and get it to us. The solar contract, which we'll be talking about tonight, we publicly say it's under $45 per megawatt hour. The actual number is under that, but I can't disclose the number in public. In one-on-one, I can certainly share the number with you. So we will be replacing that with a plant that produces power at under $45 a megawatt hour. And they will see a plant that produces power for us at about $120 per megawatt hour, phase out
Wow,
and go to sleep.
where is that plant?
The solar plant,
No, coal.
the coal plant, it's outside of Orlando,
Really?
within the limits of that county.
There's coal in Florida?
Yes, there are. It travels thousands of
Well,
miles.
they ship it in.
Yeah, okay, now I'm asking that.
Yeah.
I never heard of a coal mine in Florida.
No,
Like what?
it comes in by rail. It comes in on these unit trains. I think there are about 144 cars per train, and they deliver, thousands of tons per day of
Oh, yeah.
coal to that
The,
plant.
the 120 versus the 45 is apples to apples. That includes the fixed cost of the wire.
Yes, it does. As a matter of fact, the solar is obviously a little bit different. You heard me joke, hey, it doesn't work at night, it doesn't work on cloudy days. But what we can look at is that, let's say that number of 45 is going to get us 54.9. Let's round up to 55 megawatts of solar capacity, of solar generation capacity. But on any given day, we should only count on about half of that. Because that might be cloudy, it might be nighttime, for example, we'll work at all at night. So we'll take about 50% of that as a capacity credit. If you back into that number, you say, we're gonna pay X amount of dollars, let's say roughly $6 million a year for that power. If we say, well, half of that is the equivalent of a capacity payment, so we would have bought capacity. We can impute that our true energy cost from that unit energy only is gonna be somewhere in between 25 to maybe under $30 per megawatt hour. So there's some capacity value there.
Mhm.
So that effectively means that over the life of the project, we will have locked in about 25 to 28% of our energy supply for the city at an imputed gas price of under $3.50. So I'm doing a lot of imputing and calculating back rough numbers, but it's a good financial decision for us. It's obviously the right environmental decision. No question about that. So we'll replace many tons of coal being burned into the atmosphere and transported across the country into a cleaner resource and more sustainable resource for us. Not to mention that plant is also coming up on 40 years old. By the time it retires, I think it'll be 39 or 40 years old. So it's really an end of life. A lot of the balance of the plant, a lot of the systems are in need of, will obviously require capital improvements over the years to keep it going. So the right decision is to retire it.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Very well.
Thanks very much. That's you.
Just to follow on that, those are great points, and thank you for the question. You see, solar, and it's what you read in the industry reports. Solar has been cheaper than fossil fuels for a while now, certainly cheaper than coal, by a lot. And then there are a couple other things, there aren't fixed costs with it, and the decommissioning the new plant and even decommissioning the coal plant has costs associated. There are with taking down the solar field also, but they're minor. They're way less. So, it's just the big issue now is we need to, as a country and as a planet, move toward more storage systems so that it's putting out too steadily, even though it's not generating anything. You store that and kick it back out. That's coming. That technology, people are very actively working on all sorts of different ways to do that. So that's coming. And I think that issue of you think about electricity, the market is a little bit weird in the sense that you figure, well, you just pay for how much you use. Well, we as a city pay also for having that capacity if we need it. And the solar, even though
We may not always be using all of it. It counts against our capacity needs, so we have a lower cost of buying it from other sources. So
Right.
we're getting benefits a number of different ways.
I think, to that point, most of the public doesn't think this way, and they shouldn't have to. This should happen behind the curtain without them even know. But not because it's ugly, but because you have to have capacities. You have to have the capacity to generate power when you need it, and you have to have the power when you need it. So when you're buying solar, you're not getting a lot of capacity value, because I can't call solar to run at 3 o'clock in the morning or on a cloudy day. I can call on a fossil fuel unit to do that. And in the future, we can call on battery energy storage to do that. But the cost to build the battery energy storage that you need would be so exorbitant that we can't afford to do that for the next few years. Although we are going to go ahead with grant money and build a battery energy storage project here in our city. So we were awarded grant dollars to do that. Well, a lot of people forget too with the battery. So the battery is a great way to store energy, but you have to recharge it. So if we get 2, 3, 4, 5 days of cloudy weather, you're gonna use it the first day, then what do you do the next day? You didn't have the energy to recharge it. So it's an important part of our future. We're certainly gonna put a battery in, there's no question about it. But I think that for many years to come, will be an element of fossil fuel power on standby, ready to jump in and produce the energy when solar backs off. So we've hedged ourselves well as a city. And we're going down the right path. We're following our resource plan. We're following the resolution, which was put in place by the commission on where we want to be with respect to our carbon footprint. And we have a plan and we're executing on that plan.
So we're in our hybrid mode.
Yes, we
Got it. Will we always be, I mean, at some point, if there's not enough battery capacity or it's days and days of cloudy weather, will we have some fossil fuels, some kind of as a backup?
Yes, so that's the key portion of what we call our supplemental capacity energy contract, which at the moment is with OUC. That's competitively bid. For the folks in the market who may be listening, we will be competing that again in 2025. We're contracted will start in 2026. And that would give us the ability to vary the amount of capacity that we buy on a month-to-month basis so that we can meet our needs.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The cost of the solar, for at least 2 of the fields, is fixed over the 20-year lifespan of the contract.
That's correct.
So that's our physical hedge against variations or increases in gas price.
Correct. So of when we get into the solar presentation tonight, you'll hear that of the 54.9 megawatts that we will have in our portfolio, all but 13 of that 54 will be coming to us at a price under 45. Again, I have to say under 45 at a fixed price over the life of the project, which is 20 years. The other 13 is a number that we've represented as being under 35, and that will escalate at 2% per year for 20 years.
Thank you. Next up, we have a water utility update by Ms. Vaughn Ida, Interim Director of Water Utility.
So, Vaughn Ida with Water Utilities. I just have a couple of quick, bullet point things to note, not too much crazy stuff going on. We have submitted the first round of PFAS class action claim forms. That was for the 3M and DuPont settlements. I don't believe we qualified for their phase 1 because it required every single water source, in our case, that's each well, to be tested before June 2023. That was not really on our radar in June 2023. So we qualify for phase 2. However, there are 2 more class actions coming down the line, and we will qualify for phase 1 on those based on their court settlement dates. So hopefully we will, be getting something from that entire process. With City Manager Brown, we had a kind of joint application with Public Works to the Lakewood Lagoon Initiative. And we did our presentation for that last week or 2 weeks ago. Losing track of time. Where there were only 2 applicants, and they essentially told us at the end that the rankings don't matter, that they will be requesting funding for both projects. So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what is that now specifically, what's that gonna do?
So what we applied for is on 9th Avenue South, there is a segment of right of way that continues to the intercoastal. That is currently it's an issue for the adjacent homeowners, but it's also an issue because I don't know if I've distributed these pictures to you guys. The outfall at that location is corrugated metal. It's in really bad shape. It's not only dangerous, it's full of sand, so it's not effective either. So our proposal for a Lake Worth Lagoon initiative was we will obviously clean that out, get it restored, get it fixed, possibly put a tidal check valve, which is what we're doing in several other locations. To make sure that any, high tide, king tide can't influence our storm system. And top that off with a living shoreline to stabilize everything, make it prettier, and keep this from happening to the outfall again in the future. And from Public Works, I don't know if you want to talk about that, Jamie, but
I just want trash cans.
yeah, he wants trash cans.
Who wants trash?
So,
100 of them all
We need
downtown,
more.
from A Street all the way down. to
We need more
Gulf View.
trash.
So basically the ones we have right now, you guys probably see, during the nights, sometimes people think it's fun to go and knock them all over and we have all kinds of litter in our curb gutter, which ultimately ends up in our storm drain, which has ease. So getting much more, substantial cans, everything, so it's, attacking the issue at the source.
That's part of the.
It's part of the- Absolutely.
yeah, so just qualified that with, keeping litter out.
Yeah, which shows that it's sort of the initiative that we keep talking about pride in our city and cleaning things up. Great, thank you.
So for those that were proposed were made out of concrete, so they're not going to go anywhere if we are going to have funding. So the hurricane hardening project at the treatment plant is 95% done, which is nice. So that's onward. And the Parrot Cove Stormwater Improvements Project, which is again restoring outfalls, installing tidal check valves, that's 4th, 6th, 8th, and 9th on the golf course. It's been put out to bid. We have intent to award to a contractor, so hopefully we will be getting started soon. Just need to coordinate with golf course to make sure that we are disrupting as little as possible. And last but not least, the 18th Avenue South Palm Park Pump Station project, for stormwater is in the final stages. The final stages, a pump startup was done. It passed. It also generated some additional punch list items. So we are getting those knocked out, and we are also working with Public Works on that project to remedy the driveway aprons that are pretty egregious.
So
So
I just wanted to, you've been a champ you've had a lot to deal with that project, and you've really been handling it very beautifully.
well, thank you. I'm very, very hopeful that it's going to be
Yeah,
wrapped up very soon.
I'm sure.
But I think that's about it as far as interesting things.
Couple questions. Commissioner Diaz?
Maybe not so many questions, well, I guess a couple questions, but, thank you for that. The two initiatives that, I'm happy to see them finally coming to fruition. The PFAS for example, I know Commissioner Ray, you've had questions about PFAS and how it impacts people, and the impact is terrible, but the good news, I think hopefully, people understand that we're a part of this class or want to be a part of this class. It doesn't necessarily mean that their water was necessarily overly poisoned or anything, because probably in the grand scheme of things, because of the reverse osmosis and how we source our water, we realize that we're better off to address that situation than probably the good majority of water utilities around. So that's awesome. It'll lead to potential major funding in the near future. And the Lake Worth Lagoon initiative is great because that project South Ninth definitely needed some attention. I'm gonna use that word, attractive nuisance comes to mind. And then a pipe is no good when it's 80% filled with sand. But what you guys did with the application is really great, and I think the county and the ERM is really excited to see that, because for a number of years, I've been kind of a big advocate for the Lake Worth Lagoon Management Plan. And no matter how many times I try to get other municipalities to apply to this program, they tend to not follow through for whatever reason, so we did. And our application is awesome because it ties in so many things that the management plan covers, which they really appreciate. And I think, not only is it a way for us to get funding for this project, but I think it's a really important thing to build or continue to build a really solid relationship with the county and because they're pretty excited about it. So I'm really looking forward to this session and hearing some good news about legislative.
And something I did want to clarify about the PFAS, because you just kind of prompted me to think about this. The testing sources that went into the class action form were from the wells, so that is pre-treatment, and as you said, reverse osmosis does take PFAS out. So, we do have blend water, but ultimately, that is pre-treatment, so we
Yeah.
are in a very good position.
And our sources could have been worse, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got a question from Commissioner May? Oh, no, for Ms. Malinga first.
Thank you for your presentation and for your update. Any update on where we are with getting our money back from AT&T and all the work we had to do?
No, so I believe the intent of the law firm that is going to pursue that for us was to wait for all of the invoices to be paid so that we get a final number that is dollars and cents and not just a rounded total of what we're asking for. In his opinion, going with a very, very specific number in the demand will prompt more action than if we say, hey, this cost us about, $8 million, pay us back.
Do you know approximately how much longer and how many more invoices we're waiting on, or is that kind of just, are we on a 90-day, 120, 180 days with some of these people?
We have been working to. There was one final invoice from the main contractor that worked on the project, and two, I will call them straggler invoices for just kind of, small services. We are working to get the two small invoices lumped into the contractor's final invoice, and that should be any day now.
Okay, great.
So all the work is done, we're just waiting. We're ready to pay the bill, so.
Okay, thank you. I see Jan back for shaking. Thank you. I just wanted an update. Thank you.
Anything? Oh, Ms. May.
I just have a question about what you're just talking about with the PFAS and the well. And since I have a well for my irrigation, but I'm sure other people do too, is that dangerous for our grass and pets and everything?
I think it's more of a consumption concern,
Okay,
but I'm honestly not positive. So I think it's like kind of microplastics is a way to picture it almost.
okay.
But.
So don't drink the well water.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Yellow boy, yellow.
There's a reason we have a treatment plan.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you so much, really, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have public participation of non-agenda items. We have a card. Madam Clerk, do you have any, I checked earlier, there were none.
I have no comments on any item tonight, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Ms. Fisher, Mona.
Peggy Fisher, North A Street. I watched the pre-agenda meeting on Friday, and I wanted to say thank you for listening to giving some money to help your Lake Worth. I think it's a very good thing to do and can continue to do each year. So I thank all of you who were on that meeting and agreed to it. Another thing that came up at that meeting was giving the clerk the ability to in some way verify candidates' residences. And one of the things that came to my mind listening to it was a mortgage payment or a deed does not guarantee that that person lives in the city in that property.
Well, you really can't have somebody falling.
I know it does. I'm not saying that. If you'll let me finish my comment. if they were to be living in it, it would be homesteaded, more than likely. Or you don't use that item. I would hope that the 6 months residency that's in the charter remains. And possibly there are other things that could be options for verification, voter registration, something other, but you could have someone who owns a home here, has a deed, has a mortgage on it, lives in Wellington, and it's a short-term rental, and they don't have any license because we don't do that for a lot of our short-term rentals. And so I just wanted to mention that. I think it's great to have better verification. I mean, at least we're not a city that has a one-day qualifying period like Tenapon Beach or needing so many signatures to become a candidate. But I did want to say thank you, and I did want to mention that I think you need to really look at the options that you're giving the clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unfinished business, the lease agreement with Lutheran Services Florida, Inc.
Motion to approve.
Second.
They're rushing to do this. All in favor? Aye.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Mr.
McCoy.
Dr. McCoy. Utilities.
Thank you.
B.
Actually, well, since they're here, Lutheran Services doesn't have a new director. Do you want to like introduce yourself and just kind of say hi?
Oh,
Sorry. So, my name is Laura Conway. I'm the new executive director for Lutheran Services Florida. And I want to thank the city of Lake Worth for allowing us to have our center in Lake Worth. We have 65 children, and I'm glad to say that this year, 99.6% of them were seen by a medical provider. 99.4% of them are up to date with their immunizations. 98.4% of them have seen an oral doctor, a dentist. And what we have seen is when children don't come to the center, then they stay in, the parents don't work first, or if they work, then they stay in non-licensed homes. And we have had several cases, not in Lake Worth, but in other areas where there is child abuse and neglect in those non-licensed health facilities. So I want to thank you for allowing us to partner with the city and being such a pivotal and fundamental part of Lutheran Services Florida.
You're very welcome on behalf of all of us, and you do great work. I'm glad it all worked out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think we passed that without any discussion, so let's move on. Amendments to the Florida Municipal Solar Project Phase 2 and 3 power sales contract.
Yes, good evening. We, Ed Liberty for the Electric Utility, and we have a guest speaker tonight, Suman Schuman from the Florida Municipal Power Agency. Suman Schuman, or staff member Schuman, has been a huge part of this effort on the part of FMPA to see this through. She's been with the solar project for probably 3 to 4 years now. And there's been, as you know, there's been a lot of twists and turns between project 1, 2, and 3. Hopefully tonight you'll hear about the final resolution on project 3. To tee this up, we had previously committed to 59.9 megawatts of solar between the two projects. You're going to get into more detail with Susan. And the developer, Origis, had informed that they were unable to perform, and the contract was likely going to go up in smoke. So FMPA staff has been working very hard to come up with a solution that meets the needs of all of the members that were involved with the project, FMPA itself, and also the developers. And you'll hear about how that worked out tonight. I like the solution. I've endorsed it as a board member at FMPA and as a chair of the one of the solar committees as well. So I think it's an elegant solution to a difficult problem, and brings us great value. So I'll turn it over to Susan. I'll be here. I may chime in from time to time but I'll yield to Susan to walk you through the presentation.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to be here. I know.
You can just speak a little louder so that I can hear you at home.
I've been here several times and I can.
I'm sorry, can you check if the mic is on?
It's on, you just have to speak a little, lean in a little bit more.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, my apologies for that. I have been here several times giving updates on this and, you know, hopefully this is the last one for a long time. And I want to share my congratulations to Mr. Liberty for his election to president-elect at FMPA, which is our sister organization. It's the same membership in both of the organizations, so what's good for them is good for us also. So it's a very, very wise choice on their part. So I'm just going to give a very brief overview before I get into the issue that we're here for tonight, just as a quick refresher. The Florida Municipal Solar Project is 3 phases, as Mr. Liberty has indicated. And when all 3 phases are complete at the end of by 2027, it'll be 7 facilities and about 525 megawatts. And that's actually a reduction of the original contract, which would be, was 8 facilities and about 600 megawatts. Phase 1 has been online, 2 facilities since 2020. Phase 2 originally was supposed to be online at the end of 2023. However, both of those facilities have been delayed. Rice Creek will be online in the 4th quarter of this year. October 1 is the current commercial operation date. And I forgot to mention to Ed, we did actually start receiving test energy today on Rice Creek. So it is actually energized. So that's
Great.
good news. Yeah.
Rice Creek we're in Rice Creek, so that means we're starting to receive some test energy on paper. And that will be commercial in October.
That's exciting. Whistling Duck is our problem child, and that's really the main reason why we're here tonight. It's has already started this down that path. They've been delayed to December of 2025, and that's assuming the amendments that we're talking about now are passed, which we have every reason to believe by all the participants. And then there's 3 additional phase 3 facilities. It's 4 currently, but with these amendments, it'll be 3. And those will all be online by 2027. And the graphic on the right just shows the 20 participants in all 3 phases of the Florida Municipal Solar Project, and the little yellow suns are where the facilities are located. So the reason we are here is because Borges, the developer of phase 2, reached out to us at the end of last year, and they said they're going to be unable to develop Whistling Duck under the current conditions and the terms of the due to several different things, and which FMPA truly believes is out of the control of the developer. It's a nationwide issue, and it's not just Borges, and we do believe they've acted in good faith. It's unfortunate that it's happening, but we don't hold them responsible for it. They needed to extend the commercial operation date and increase the contract price. And if we didn't agree to the amendments, they would need to terminate. So of the 12 Whistling Duck participants, 8 of them said they weren't interested in moving forward with the price increase. And the remaining 4, including Lake Worth Beach, it's still very reasonable pricing. It's equivalent to the phase 3 pricing, which has already been approved by all of them. So they wanted to continue. So at FMPA, we always strive to meet the needs of all of our members and make sure there's a favorable outcome as much as possible. So with the collaboration of all of the members of Whistling Duck and the phase 3 projects, and Borges and FMPA, we will be reconfiguring Whistling Duck and the phase 3 PPAs so that everybody who wants to participate can, and everybody who wants to exit. It will require reductions from 5 to 4 facilities. We'll be losing one of the phase 3 facilities. 4 of the PPAs will require amendments. I'll get into a little bit of detail in a minute, but I'm not going to flog it to death here. One of the facilities will be terminated. That's Tim Holloway. And as always, we try to optimize the allocations between FPL and internet facilities. Wheeling costs across the transmission providers are very expensive, so we do what we can to avoid that on behalf of our members.
The ARP, FMPA's, project of 13, members is reducing from about 7 to about 31 megawatts. So they're taking the big hit. And all of the facilities, as I mentioned before, are going to have equal pricing in dollars per megawatt. None of the phase 3 pricing is changing. It's Whistling Duck is increasing to match. So this is what the allocations look like right now. And as you can see, Whistling Duck is the first column on the left there, and by far with 12 participants, it's the most populated by FMPA members there. The red numbers indicate the members who want to exit. So that's 8 of them right there, and it's it's about 41 megawatts that are going to exit. So that's what it looks like right now, and then the 4 phase 3 facilities on the right there. And after the amendments are approved, this is what it will look like. Penn Holloway will be terminated completely, and the remaining megawatts are going to be allocated across the remaining 4 facilities. And as you can see, Lakewood Beach kind of has the almost identical equal allocation between the Whistling Duck and the Leyland facilities. Both of those scheduled to be online at the end of 2025. This doesn't include the Rice Creek, as Ed mentioned earlier, that's 13 additional megawatts.
So if we were to look at the total there of 41, we're actually getting 41 plus the 13 and change from the Rice Creek project to get us to the 54 and change. I think one of the questions that you should ask us, and I'll offer this up and explain why. You say, well, you just say, well, Ed, you're a board member there. 8 of 12 are exiting. You're recommending we stay. Why is that? Yes. So the answer to that is that it's great economic value for us when you take into account the capacity addition. The economics may not be the same. The capacity needs may not be the same for the others, and they may not be as motivated as we are in terms of where we see our portfolio going over the next 20 plus years. So I'm not going to say that they're doing the wrong thing, but I'll reaffirm that we're doing the right thing. And this is what makes sense for us, and it's a good value for us. So I knew you would ask that question, so I thought I'd put it out there for you.
What was ARP?
That's FMPA's All Requirements Project. It's 13 members who join together to have all of their power needs met by FMPA. So they have ownership in different facilities throughout the state.
Thank you.
So it's a good point in history to remind people of the history. There was a point in time between 2003 and 2013 when the city was a full member of the ARP. Technically, we're still a member of the ARP, even though we exited at the end of 2013. But we went through a process which is referred to as CROD, C-R-O-D, where we exited the ARP. And although we take 0 power from the ARP, but we were a member of the ARP for that 10-year period.
And as I said, our membership, that's why these kinds of projects that we put together are so complicated, because each of the members has a different need and a different reason for going into something. And, Ed has been one of the most vocal advocates since the inception of the project. So he's been very influential in pushing it. Very thankful for this. So again, 5 PPAs are going to be impacted. The Whistling Duck is the only one that has any real substantive provisions, because we are increasing the pricing, we're extending the commercial operation date. We are increasing the daily damages, and we're kind of reconfiguring how to be paid so it's more favorable to the participants if in fact Borges doesn't meet the revised terms. And then updating the percentages. Again, Leyland and Hampton are really just some minor corrections and updating the shares. And New River we're really just making some corrections there. And Penn Holloway will be terminated, and it will require a mutual termination release agreement between FMPA and Borges.
So one of the unintended benefits of the contract falling apart, I think it's the mayor would appreciate contracts, was it allowed FMPA staff to see some of the shortcomings in the damages sections of the contract. So the new contract, the amendments will strengthen those on the behalf of the FMPA participants.
Maybe.
Mr. Gill?
Agree.
Oh, I can wait towards the end. I mean, my only question was, December 2025. That's right around the corner. So when it does come to market, we've talked about it before from the previous agreement or the agreement that is now. So with this new amendment, what's the ratio going to be nuclear to solar by December 2025?
I can give you just a very general ballpark number in our portfolio, and you say, well, why is it general? It changes because it's a percentage of our total energy buy, which is growing by a rate of 1.5 to 2.5% per year. So nuclear is about 34 to 36% of our energy purchases. Solar will be in the range of 25 to 28%. So those two combined, and do the math real quick, something close to 55 to 60% will be coming from carbon-free resources during 2025. And then the balance will continue to come from natural gas. Coal will be retired, so in theory, it should be zero would come from coal post December of 2025.
And the rest will be like oil, gas.
Primarily natural gas.
Yeah.
Oil would only be there as a backup to the natural gas, should there be an interruption to natural gas.
And it's really impressive because compared to Key West really stands out too. They're very similarly sized to us. I don't know what their power looks like, but being a city that's really similar to our size, like the economic sense and things that you explained, you can see it.
Well, Key West is a little bit higher number of customers, much higher in the load that they serve. They have much higher transmission costs because obviously it has to get all the way there. But they are a member in the All Requirements Project, so they are in the ARP. So they also have their own generating assets, but they're dispatched and managed by the All Requirements Project, even though they're on the property at the Key West plants. So they have a high energy cost, not because they don't do a good job, but because it's logistically difficult to get power all the way down to the Keys. Yep.
Not much place.
Yeah, yeah, surprisingly, most people would think it'd be great, but number one, when you look at the wind maps, Florida is not a great state for consistency of winds relative to the amount of investment you have to make. I believe also that our governor basically locked out offshore wind, which was it depends on what side of the aisle you sit on. Some people like it, some people don't like it, the decision, but you can't develop offshore wind here in Florida. At least that's my understanding of it.
Well, he didn't touch the Gulf Stream.
Correct.
Mr. Hughes, you have a question?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we're on target for the FMPA board and executive committee to have their final approvals at our September 19th meetings. That means all 14 of the participants in Whistling Duck and Phase 3 will have their local governing board approvals before then. So all of them are doing what Mr. Liberty is doing and educating their commissions and getting those approvals as well. So, constant work in progress. But we'll get there. There's additional approvals required, and this is where Lakewood Beach comes in. These are documents that you'll be required to execute. Amendment number 2 to the Solar 2 project. And what that does is revise the Whistling Duck shares, Rice Creek, which is also Phase 2. Solar 2 will not be impacted at all. And then amendment number 1 to the power sales contract for Solar 3, and it removes Penn Holloway and reallocates Leyland, Hampton, and New Hampshire. It doesn't really impact Lakewood directly because we're just reshuffling the things around, but it's just that, we need to go through some to get the contract.
I'll also add that none of this affects what we refer to as the energy exchange agreement that we have with the FMPA All Requirements Project. So what does that mean? So some of these facilities are connected to the Duke transmission system, and some of them are connected to the FPL transmission system. So we may have power, we'll have power generated for us that's actually on the Duke system. We don't want to pay a Duke transmission charge and an FPL transmission charge. So by agreement with the All Requirements Project, the All Requirements Project will take the power that we own that's on the Duke system and swap it for power that they'll deliver to us on the FPL system with the environmental attributes intact. So it's an exchange agreement. It's like a swap. you give us this power over here, we'll give you the same amount, same type of power back on this side.
What's the renewable energy credits?
Correct.
And that's an exchange agreement with the ARP. Because the ARP has, Duke and FPL. Transmission. So we're able to-
And they have power generation on both footprints, so they can move the portfolio back and forth. That's been a very important, I think, we talk about the company, so what's the value of FMP to us? When you can do a project like this and have that flexibility and have the ARP, which is a very important part of FMPA, say we will help with these swaps and these exchanges. It shows you the power of joint action and one for all and all for one, and how much support we get from FMPA over many, many years in our operations. So we appreciate what they're doing for us.
I have a herd of about 120 cats. Would you like a job herding them? It sounds to me like you're very experienced at multiple partners with all different things and getting them all to go the same direction.
The cats
Thank
would
you
be
very
easy.
much for that work.
Thank you. I appreciate all of your consideration.
And for Mr. Liberty's leadership on it, certainly. Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan.
Madam
Have a
Clerk, do
safe
you have
ride
any
back.
public comments for
Have a safe
anything
ride.
tonight?
I do not, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Okay. Next up. New business, CCNA extension and second amendment to the task order 8 with Craig A. Smith and Associates for Parrot Cove Stormwater Improvement Project Construction Engineering Services. Motion to approve. Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. B, authorized water metering quotas purchase with the Avante Company for the city's water utility department. Do you have a motion? Motion to approve.
Second,
Mr. Floyd, your
question.
question?
just, I assume the answer to this is very much yes, but just to confirm that these encoders will be fully compatible with whatever AMI system we finally wind up with.
I have been told that the AMI system change will not affect any of the water meter stuff. But yes, this is specifically authorizing procurement from, I believe, possibly the only retailer of these encoders that we have access to.
So it better work because nobody else.
We're the it's all about the monopoly.
And
And to add to that response, I can tell you that as recently as 9:30 this morning, we had a meeting with the consultant eSource, who was selected to help us through the process of selecting a new AMI. We made it clear that the new AMI system that we migrate to must not leave water behind. And it was their thought that a new AMI system might actually provide some more enhancements for water versus what was available really a decade ago when that AMI decision was made. So there may be more improved technology, but I can assure everybody the intent is not to say we're doing an electric AMI and we don't know about water. We're making sure that the AMI solution addresses both water and electric.
And
Thankful for that.
yes, and that's a good thing. And the AMI, for those listening, automated meter
Infrastructure.
infrastructure, basically the remote reading of your meters. The one that I've been pushing for probably a decade is on the water side, not so much on the electric, but once the AMI thing is running fully, there should be software running that listens to the flow rate. And when you get some weird, huge, fast spike in your water flow, it should say, hey, that looks like a possible leak. Let's give those guys a call and say, hey, are you doing anything funny? Or because you might have a leak, you may want to check.
We do have something currently that, the readings are not super consistent, but if there are, multiple readings in a row, which sometimes there is frequently as hourly, that is indicating a leak, it will flag it as, a leak detected, and then we can.
Isn't our current at 15-minute reading?
We do 15-minute intervals, either 15-minute or hourly, depends on the account, but I think the data is there 15 minutes.
That was my recollection, and presumably the new one will be at least 15.
Yeah, we don't want to go backwards. As a matter of fact, we learned today that the new technology would take action on a drastic leak detection and actually there's the technology to close the valve and shut the water off to the home, so the water's not flooded, the home's not flooded. So that's new tech. I'm not sure that we'll actually get that, but
I don't think we have remote shut-off valves, that I know.
no, but new technology would include
To
that.
do that.
So
Right, so-
whether that's ultimately what we wind up with or not, we have to go through the studies and the economics and say, does that make sense? But that's how far the technology has evolved. I think biggest changes will probably come in, number one, making sure that we get the data, having a meter data management system so we can do the analytics. I'll use the term AI, but with programs, or if you want to say subroutines running in the background that would monitor this and cause an alarm to be raised so we can react to it and get information to the customer as quickly as possible.
That's the one I've been looking for a long time, because that, we all hear about somebody who had a $700 bill because the leak blew out and they didn't know when they were away, or whatever, they didn't know. And we kind of have to charge them because we kind of did deliver that water to them. But, so the leak detection, the technology and the shut-off technology, the detection, it's been around for a long time. So hopefully we'll get there soon.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
I don't necessarily participate on social media that much, but I did hear, keep in mind this is hearsay, and I wonder if some of you saw this. It's a reflex now, right?
You got any exception?
Somebody brought up to me that they saw somewhere, probably Facebook or something, somebody's like Ring camera that a person was going around claiming that they're reading water meters. It might not even have been Lakewood Beach. Did anybody
I
see
saw
that?
yeah.
Because
Is that today?
it was very recently, but
Couple days
it's pretty rare, right? And we
So that
don't,
they needed to get the key to get in.
The gate, I did see something about that.
To get
Okay.
access, and we have.
And I
we
sent,
don't respond
I
if we
sent
don't
a
need to
message
do
like,
that.
if you send us your address, we'll find out what's going on, and they never
Okay.
responded.
So today specifically, and I had my first opportunity to work with our new PIO. We are working on the EPA's service inventory requirement. So essentially, we give this predictive model all of the data we have available. We used our current GIS system. We use building permits for plumbing that's been updated within the last X amount of years since lead is not allowed anymore. Plugged it all into this predictive model from the EPA. And then that spits out locations that we need to go double check whether or not it's lead. And they've been doing that today, but if this was
A week ago,
yes, if it was a week ago, that would not have been this.
And they're coming on site to check for lead piping, or what's the?
So with most houses, we're able to just pop the meter box and see the service line and to test for lead. It's as simple as scratching it with something and then, happy to report that they found no lead today. Which is what we were expecting. We don't expect to find any, but we have to go through these motions.
kind of why we need permits for things. People
Well,
like.
the gas company always leaves me a thing that says we haven't been able to get into read your meter. So I think it might have been gas that they might have been confused about, but I'm saying if they have a gate locked, but that person never sent me or an address to follow up with.
Typically, especially when we're seeing, permits come through for vents and things like that, we make sure that's the only thing we really care about with a fence is that the water meter's on the outside so that nobody will have to do anything special to access it. But yeah, if it was, not today, then it was not that, so I'm not sure. And as far as, meters, I highly doubt there's anything that would be.
Okay.
As a public safety announcement for not only for the commission, but for folks listening at home. Anytime somebody is coming to your home to read a meter, if they work for the city of Lake Worth Beach, they will have a uniform on. They will have a t-shirt that says City of Lake Worth Beach, and they will have an ID. If they don't see them wearing a uniform shirt and they don't have an ID, they're probably not working for us. If you see that, you can certainly call PPSO, you can call customer service to confirm if somebody has been sent there for the day, but be wary. Any of our people will be wearing an ID and a city uniform shirt. Will say City of Lake Worth Beach. And you may not see the vehicle, but they'll be driving a city vehicle. They won't be there on a bicycle or in their own vehicle. Or on a scooter, that they will be there in a city vehicle with the logos on the vehicle.
Would there be some prior notice to the people that they're getting, or, I mean, essentially, could someone knock at the door and say, I need a key to your gate and be legitimate?
There may not be prior notice because we have a number of meters that are not, they are recording the data, but they're not transmitting the data to us, so we have to go read them manually. That's about 3,300 meters per month right now, we have to read manually. So we might not send a notice that, hey, we're coming to read the meter. But,
But it was standard that they, I mean.
right, and if we have to read the meter manually, it's typically around the same day every month. It's probably not, they were here last week, they're here again. So it takes a vigilant customer to say, show me an ID. You're not wearing a shirt, don't open the door. No.
Yeah, I think this
Don't
guy
let
said
them
he lived there a while.
Okay, yeah, because it's always good to be vigilant these days on those things, and that's why these meters are so important, because it takes that out. And the meter should be outside of the fence anyway, so I'm not sure, I don't know exactly the details of the situation, I just wanted to bring that up, because I felt like this is a good segue and a reminder that people should be vigilant, but it does happen, it's just not as often.
And please don't ever pay anybody who shows up at your door, because none of our people are authorized to take a payment. So if they say you need to make the payment to me now, or I'm gonna turn you, call PDSO immediately.
Or any identification information for
Right.
that matter as well.
We don't collect from people at the door. We're not authorized to do that. We would never do that. If unfortunately, if you haven't made a payment and you're being disconnected, you just have to call customer service. But you would have gotten multiple notices long before that happened. So please, public listening, don't fall for that scam. There's people out there, bad actors, who are preying on you, and don't fall victim to that.
Thank you. So this was named Cody's, right? We can talk this one. B, do you have a motion and a second?
We already have a motion and a second, Madam Mayor, just not a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Moving on to C, authorize water meter purchase with Utility Solutions and on Automations LLC for badge meters for the city's water utility department. Motion to approve. Do I have a
No, I
second?
get to do it because I'm from Wisconsin and those are.
Badgers.
Bad.
But I've had dachshunds today, not badgers.
Oh my God, rabbit hole, you
Mr. McCoy, motion.
Motion approved.
Okay, second by
Melinda.
Malega.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Amendment to agreement with Ryan House and Manufacturing, Inc. to furnish and install dissolved gas monitors for analysis of power transformers cooling oil. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
That's preventative to keep an eye on these things from going.
Good idea.
I
Okay.
second.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
Ms. Malega?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Florida Municipal Power Agency to provide transmission operations support for certain limited transmission operator activities. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
We get to play
Aye.
too.
Right, come on, my left side's gotta come up here.
All right.
Work order, item G, work order.
Wait,
number-
no, what about the rate
Oh,
of innovation fund?
sorry. I
That's
didn't
what
want
we
to.
actually.
I don't know about that. Item F, transfer of rate stabilization funds. Let's go.
Favorite discussion. So I'm gonna ask Assistant Director Brian King to join me. He's the one who tracks this closely, but basically what has happened. So I mentioned earlier that energy use was up substantially, way more than we expected. So I'll just give you some statistics. Energy use by our customers increased in the month of May by 15.9% over the prior year.
It warmed up.
It warmed up quite a bit. Degree days for the month of May increased by 33% over the prior year. June, electric deliveries increased by 7.7% over prior year. And July, they increased by 4.8% over prior year. I'll point out that we've been tracking this data for many, many years, but if I just go back to 2013, that's the highest we've seen in any month, at least back to 2013. So we continue to grow, but degree days are up. We also set peaks in for each of those months. So for the month of May, for example, our peak send out increased by 11.5% over the prior year. or over any of the prior year's peaks. June, we were up about 1.8%, in July up about 1.1%. So heating degree days or cooling degree days increased for those months by 33% in May, 6% in June, and about 6% in July. And our customer counts are growing by about 0.5%. So the weather is having an impact. Customers are using more energy and there's more customers, but the energy use is going up faster than the customer counts are going up. But we've also had much warmer weather. So why does that tie into PCA? So we had calculated PCA rates based on, slight, pretty much what we had last year or a little bit more. But to see these types of increases means we flowed a lot more energy at the lower rate. At the same time, we had issues with generation, which saw key units unavailable. Some of our own units we could not use for capacity because they had mechanical problems, but also had experienced outages, I believe, on Stanton and on the St. Lucie nuclear plant, which caused us to say, well, we still have to deliver energy. So we used a supplemental contract to make up that energy under the supplemental contract. So that cost us more. That all led to say we spent more of our PCA dollars than we anticipated. And what we're suggesting now is that we basically draw down from the stabilization fund, which is what it was intended for, to square up the checking account. So draw out the savings account, move it over to the checking account, so we're balanced. And since if we do that, basically in August, we'll have it in good shape for the closing of the books at the end of September. So the fund balance will be trued up. Otherwise, the utilities fund balance, the electric utility fund balance, would be hit by this negative 1.5 million. It would affect our fund balance. So we're using stabilization fund dollars to move back over into the checking account. The stabilization fund is still in good shape and we continue to monitor it. So that's the high level.
It still leaves enough money in our funds to.
So it would be about a $1.4 million plus drawdown of the $3.5 million stabilization fund.
Right, and it would be just over 2 million.
Mr. McBoy, you had requested your line up first.
A question for, well, either of you, I guess. You mentioned 33% for May. Is that 33% higher than last year's May?
Yes,
Not from May to April to May?
no, just 33% increase over the same month prior year.
It seems like an awful big jump. And then, but then the jump was less by quite a bit in June and July.
Yeah, we jumped from 436 degree days in 2023 for the month of May to 581 degree days in May of 2024. This is data taken at PBI Airport.
And the June and July ones were a good deal closer to last.
6% increase over the same month prior year.
So for some reason, it was just abnormally
It's
hot.
getting hotter longer.
And what happens, we've talked about this a lot, but it's worth reinforcing that we incur the expense within a few weeks of the close of the month. So we pay those bills. It shows up in customer meter reads, 30 days later after in their cycle, and then they pay 30 to 45 days after that. So there's always a lag between realizing the revenue to match up against the expense. So a portion of the $1.4 million plus could be lag in payment, but that will eventually chew itself up.
I'm gonna you first, Ms. Mapes first, then Ms. Malinga, I don't know, think so.
It doesn't matter, but I'll go. So it looks to me like the difference, the PCA balance, or not PCA, the rate stabilization fund balance should be between 600,000 and 3.5. That was the 500,000 and 3.5, and we're at 3.5, right?
Yes, we.
So we're at the top anyway. So this is the time that it would be appropriate to do that, or lower rates, which we don't want to do because it's going down each month, right?
Correct.
And so it makes perfect sense. It's like why this thing was set up. This is exactly why it was set up. And so, I definitely could make a motion that we approve it.
And I could definitely ask for a second. Oh, wait, we have another Ms. Malinga.
Well, she can still comment, but I thought we'd at least
And
get the
I'll
party
support
started.
this. I know, they called me up here to help them out. Doesn't sound like you need to help explain it, but the,
Once we read it.
Yes, the extra funds that we're spending, the extra expenses are, we're picking up a lot of extra capacity. Because our in-house unit, our combined cycle unit, that's been down for some time now. It's almost back up already, but we did have a phase fail on the cable going out through the yard. So that's 30 megawatts of capacity that we are credited when that unit's available. If it's not available, we will buy that capacity. So we can get the energy from that capacity. So that's why you see, over the last, several months, we've had these higher PCA costs, PCA expenses versus PCA revenues. But a big portion of it is we are picking up extra capacity.
Are all those generators working?
Well, we do have one unit that is available, the SRS3 unit, but again, we will buy that unit out in capacity. As a risky unit run, it's old. Yeah, we get caught in a position where we say, hey, we'll take this capacity credit, this S3 unit. And then we need the energy from that unit. We bring that unit online and it doesn't come up online. We can't get any of that power. We have no access to that power. We have to do something extraordinary such as blackouts. So it's just something. So we do pick up the extra capacity, guaranteed.
Just to make sure we have it. Ms. Malega?
Thank you. I do have a question. Do we know where we are on fund balance right now, since we're at August 27th? That's not an I got you question. I'd like to know where we are on fund balance, because we're technically a month away from the end of our books, like you just said. And I don't know what our fund balance looks like, and I'm gonna support obviously the transfer, but I just want us to be mindful that we can put this money back as quickly as possible, because we're still in storm season, which makes me very paranoid. But I'd like to an update on what the fund balance is, since we're making this transfer.
I'll address it from a budget point of view. I can tell you that we're tracking and forecasting to be in the positive for the year in terms of the operating budget, right? So, and I'll let Yanni get into a discussion on the fund balance.
Finance. So for the fiscal year ending 2023, we have an approximate fund balance of in excess of 500,000. So for 2024, with this transfer, it's going to help the fund balance to increase slightly. I can't promise that, so today then we'll have.
Okay, so it's $500,000, not like we're sitting on a $5 million fund balance. That's why I'm asking this question. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Mr. Boyd?
I too, I think will approve this. Would it be correct to say that the original thinking of the rate stabilization fund, I think is that one, was to, as a buffer against natural gas price primarily and changes. And that isn't really what happened here, but it certainly is true that it happened to our costs, more or less fuel costs in a loose sense at least. And in that sense, all right, it's not exactly 100% the original intent, but it's pretty close.
Well, let me put, I don't think that captures the full context of it in all fairness. So the purpose of the stabilization fund was to give us rates stability during periods of time when the PCA might have an excursion significantly up or significantly down. It happens that at that time that we were going through that process, gas prices had gone up by 3 to 5 times. They'd gone from under $3 to as much as $14, $15, $16. So it was certainly the focus of the discussion at the time that was driving it, but it could be unit unavailability, which drives up capacity purchases, some of which are under the PCA. So actually all the capacity purchases are under the PCA with the exception of nuclear, which is in base rates.
Right.
But so it was intended to cover these big swings in the PCA. And the way we got to the $3.5 million was because we had recovered from this great swing of negative, 6 million or so in rough numbers. And then we went back up and we actually got to, I believe, a little over 4 million, and we transferred a portion of money to the storm fund, I believe $500,000. That which left us with some money in the stabilization fund.
Yeah, so I think it's
Certainly the
within
spirit.
the intent of the original idea, maybe not exactly, maybe. The other question I had follow up on that is, in a month or so, when everybody's paid their bills for this stretch where we had higher usage. Obviously, it doesn't apply to the capacity charges from not having our own, that's irrelevant to that, but when people pay up for that higher usage, we might be looking a little bit better because that money will have come in. The higher usage costs us right now, but we're gonna see that coming back.
When,
Is that
when,
a-
when we return the unit to service, which is coming, and then we see a decrease in demand, which we would expect in September, October, November, we should start to see the capacity purchases come down. It's also going to be driven by what happens with natural gas prices. So today I looked at natural gas prices on the futures for the coming month for September are looking like down around $2 or slightly less, $1.90 something. So it's trending in the right direction. Our PCA is a little on the low side. Remember, we had over collected and then we brought it down so it might be a touch too low. We have to keep watching it to see if we want to raise it slightly. We won't know that till we get into, see some September and October numbers, maybe address it in a November meeting. But I don't want to panic at the moment and say we have to raise it, but it might be a little on the low side. Certainly, when solar starts to come in, it's going to help us a little bit. At the end of October, we'll start to get some of that solar in. And then when we go from 2025 into 2026, we'll see a big benefit because the Stanton One $120 unit, which is in the PCA, will come off. So it's intended to,
Definitely good.
yeah, the stabilization fund is something that the city has had in place on paper for decades. It just wasn't used. I don't know, when I arrived in 2017, and it was like, this hasn't been adjusted forever, but we finally got it going, with the commission's approval and restructured. I think it's a good PCA now, around 2022 timeframe. So we're in good shape now. It's working the way it should.
Trajectory is good. Standing unit coming up, solar coming on. I mean, it's, okay, today we got to transfer some funds over, but we're looking into the future. I think that's.
And at least we have the funds to transfer.
Right, and remember that,
We did it.
for certain purposes, we would look at the PCA fund balance as part of utility fund balance under certain conditions. So while you say, well, we only have $500,000, that's in one fund balance. But if we realize that, hey, we've got $3.5 million of stabilization money that we're going to draw down, we'll still have over $2 million in stabilization. We're doing okay. And we have $500,000 in a storm fund.
And assuming, to follow my last question, that as customers pay for that higher usage, it is conceivable that we might have enough excess that we put a little bit back into rates. Probably won't be much, but it could be. But
We've
later on.
we've been able to do that in the past, and we'll see, which certainly that would be our goal.
Right.
To be able to put money away for the, very hot and not rainy day, right?
Right.
Which drives up the energy bills.
Ms. Malego.
Thank you. Thank you. After attending the great conference that we attended and speaking with other people, I realized that our stone fund is minuscule, and we had talked about kicking around, putting the storm fund flatline number on there of $5 every billing cycle. Where did we land with that? Because we talked about it, we said we need to do something. We're going into the next budget season. We're still in the middle of the season. So I would really like to make this a priority, because when I look at what could possibly happen, $500,000, that's spent within 2 phone calls or a phone call, right? So have we made a decision on doing that line item as an add for the electric utility bill? Does it need to be on our fee schedule?
Just another flat $5 per month.
I think $5 per month from every utility user for a storm fund is just, it's a safe way to start, in my opinion, as long as we itemize it out.
Right.
And people know that's going right to every single bill that comes in, Yannick, I want that $5 transferred over to storm fund. But I would like us to get consensus to move forward in the next fiscal year. Do we have to put it on the fee schedule? I don't know what that looks like, because I know we don't put everything on the fee schedule, if it's a minimum or not. But I would like us to move forward immediately on that.
Staff recognize that and agrees it's the right thing to do. We've been more focused at the moment on getting the base rate correct for the coming years, and then coming back with a proposal. So, okay, we don't want to forget about the storm fund at all, but we do need to put that in place. But we just want to get the the operating budget correct, so we don't confuse the two and say this is above and beyond.
I understand, but to me, it's all one, so
Yep.
if we're gonna be talking this out loud to the public,
Yep.
and we have them captive. Here, this is coming too, you know, I don't want it to be, let's talk about this in 2 months from now, because we could have been collecting that for the next 2 months.
And just like the rate stabilization fund, the storm fund would also have a cap, so that in the event that we get to the cap in terms of funding,
So-
then we turn it off, it comes off the bill. As
What
well,
do you
I like
think
a
is-
separate
But I would
line
say,
item.
some people said 16 million was their cap that I talked to. I mean, literally, they were giving me double, like, numbers that were just blowing my
Yeah,
mind.
it
It should
depends
be
on,
about 200,000 a month, right? Isn't there about 40,000?
there's about 28,000 electric meters, 27,600
Oh.
change, call it 28,000 or so meters.
So about 150.
You probably want to get a fund in the neighborhood of about $3 million is the minimum I would suggest, and we want to decide is, oh, how fast do you want to get to that number?
And how are we gonna inform the public that this is happening? Because people are complaining there's gonna be an extra $3 in their bill now, you know.
Right.
So just.
So
it's gonna-
through,
The
through just,
key is
We have a
that
great
late-
public
Right.
information officer
right,
now.
and also it would obviously be an agenda item, so it would publicize and be a lot of discussion around
But I
it.
just think it's important because we've been dodging the bullet in this city for a long time and being coastal and next to the ocean.
Good idea.
I just think it's fiscally responsible for us to move forward with it right away.
So what would be the next step on that?
We will bring you, staff will bring you a proposal, and the finance to say, what's our timing? Would it, do we have an October meeting, or do we want to do it as part of the budget process? I'm speaking out loud, I think we.
Well, isn't the key when we can change the bill? Because
Right.
I think all of us like the idea of putting money into it, but it has to be a line item on the bill.
Right.
So people see, we're not just.
Right.
That's
jacking
what I'm
the
talking about.
The bill is capable of, there's a place on the bill where this can be done, the current billing process does allow for it. It would probably take 30 to 45 days to actually get it, once you were to approve it. 30 to 45 days to actually get it to start populating in the bills.
September 24th is our next Tuesday.
And do you want to,
Well, as far as the budget is concerned, we could just add a line item in the storm fund. We'll need to get an estimate from the DOT saying this is how much we're gonna let this get 25. As far as when we're gonna have this as part of the bill, that's customer service, so.
would you like to see it on the agenda for the utility meeting in September? Or
Yeah,
October?
we could, yeah, get it started.
So separate from the budget process.
Yeah.
Let the budget process continue, and we bring you back a separate item at the September meeting for a storm fund.
So
Yes.
get that amount, because we were planning to put in the budget for this week, so we get that amount. Rough estimates, as soon as possible, this is just gonna be a revenue.
The rough estimate's gonna be 1.68.
He's good at it.
Okay, if you've got the $5 times the 28,000 times 12, 1.68.
And then we'll have to have, it won't be a big deal to put it on the bill, that's in line item.
Correct.
We gotta get the word out to people. And
Yeah.
it, you know, it's a fairly, this is why we need it. It's not an obscure.
It's not-
thing.
And I mean, we really didn't get a lot of pushback when we did the PCA increase because everybody understood and I think we've been doing a great job. Yep. Obviously, we're doing this monthly. And to me, we just kicked the can long enough that no, to fix
Good
it.
idea, thank you.
Thank you.
Put a note start saying. First target is to reach 3 million.
No, minimal.
Whatever.
Minimal. I would like to know what other electric utility municipal organizations use as their ceiling, if
I
you
mean,
will.
when you look at the,
And what it would cost for our infrastructure to replace.
we've done it for a long time, and when you look at what happens to other cities, it's like, it's a lot of money,
Yeah, I mean, 3 million to me is just, that's just
minimal.
baseline. It's the basement for me to be comfortable.
And at this rate, it would take 2 years for us to get to even the 3 million.
Right, so we might as well,
Right, we want to be conscious, speaking for the customers now as a public advocate, be conscious of the rate shock. Because we do have a base rate increase coming and then the storm fund.
And there'll be pushback, but
Yeah.
again, it's really the price of a cup of coffee.
And not just that, it's
Fries and
it's the
burgers.
price of doing business. I mean, we are taking care of our infrastructure and I'd rather do that and let it sit there for 10 years than a year from now, we're like, oh crap, an emergency.
And it should count as fund balance because it's money that we have to
And
pay
you don't
bills
wanna
and
have
events.
charge an
Yeah.
assessment or something to
Right.
the customers,
Absolutely.
you know, after the fact. Oh,
Right.
sorry, we weren't prepared. We didn't have any money for the storm. Now everybody must pay $500.
And we all know
We're
that
not gonna
FEMA
do that.
is not very.
So that's effectively what happened between Irma and Dorian. We drew down, I want to say, close to $5 million, $4.5 to $5 million of utility fund balance to cover those two storms.
And we didn't even really have. The storm.
No storm.
Right.
And the working capital came from the cities, or from the utilities fund balance, but to some extent, the city's fund balance too was provided the working capital. We went negative after that.
Mr. Boyd?
Yeah, just
Wrap it up.
a thought on this one. Could you, in the electric utility, work with the new PIO? Thank you. Public Information Officer to get out that we're fourth in the state out of 30 odd or more.
37.
Currently, and, or about fourth. And maybe you could make an estimate that if we add this $5 on, well, now we're fifth in the state instead of fourth or something, or whatever it is. If we drop to 20th, don't talk, but.
It
but
doesn't
I don't-
affect the
we
big
won't.
rates.
But so that people have a sense, look, we're doing pretty well in terms of comparison to other places. We're not real great on our reserves for storms, and we know that you've got to be prepared. And we're trying to be, I think the PIO, between you and them, you can come up with this explanation and make it very clear also that none of this goes anywhere near the general. This is not to fund the city. It's not, it's strictly for electric utility storm expenses.
Well, looking to you as our policymakers, these things are a lot easier when there's a consensus from leadership asking us to go do this. So obviously through the PIO, we have a strong voice, but you also have 5 very strong voices in the community to support this, because obviously not everybody will be happy about this, but we're not sending this money away. It's being held in a fund segregated with very strict controls and how it can be accessed. For example, I can't just call you on it and say, hey, let's move some money over. You have to make that decision, right? Very tight controls on it. It's fun city,
Well,
proper
and
city
when we
asset.
voted on it, we put tight constraints on the language, so I mean, we protected it and it's there, so let's move forward.
Let's do it. We have consensus to encourage this all to move forward.
Thank you all for your support.
Thank you for the guidance on policy. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So now we are at G.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, we had a first for that item. We did not have a second or a vote.
Second.
No, yeah, we did. We had,
I think.
I was the first. Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah,
You're right.
Commissioner May was the first.
Sorry.
I did not hear a second or a vote.
Who's the second?
McBoy?
McBoy. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, work order number 9, sounds like a song. With Hoover Corporation to provide construction services for the system hardening and voltage conversion of circuit 0604 from 6th Avenue South substation. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. We like it.
Sarah, Mimi and Sarah seconded it.
Yes.
Any motion, all in favor?
Aye.
There you go. H, purchase order to IRBY Utilities for the procurement of 3 additional GE reactors for the new 6th Avenue South substation. Do I have a motion?
Absolutely not. We're not doing this one.
So just to put everybody at
No,
ease.
we don't need, no, you're just not getting it, no.
Forget it.
No GE reactor.
No more reactors for you.
Build the substation without them, motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Diaz, all in favor?
Aye.
First amendment to the lease for staff office space and customer in-person service area for utility customer service. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second for discussion?
Second.
Okay, I have a couple questions. I think there are a couple questions. Ms. May, why don't you start?
I just wanted to understand, the difference between the office space that we rent for the customer in-person service and the call center. Can you differentiate when it's used, which one's used for what?
Okay, so there's actually 3 different things. So what we're referring to as a call center is the outsourced call center function. which was previously with, or is currently is with Enco, and you've approved at the last meeting going to a new provider. They cover their own office space in that per call payment that we make to them. They're offsite. So what we're asking for here,
No, I understand that, but what, as a customer,
Functions.
when I want to get in touch,
right,
when does it go to these people and when does it go to the Enco people?
all of the calls go into the IVR,
Which is.
which is the interactive voice recognition system, or it processes the call. You're allowed to say, press one for this, press two. So they all go into that system, and depending on your type of question, it gets routed to a rep, a customer service representative, a CSR.
Okay,
The first CSR is probably gonna be with the contracted call center.
okay,
If the issue can't be resolved then it gets escalated to our own in-house customer service people who sit at 120 North Federal upstairs in the building.
got it.
Downstairs at that building, there is an in-person customer intake facility where folks who want to talk to us in person walk in and say, I don't understand my bill, I want to open my account, close my account, whatever it is, they walk into the space downstairs. And they can drop off a payment, but we don't accept any cash. They drop off the payment in the payment box outside, and that's collected daily. So this lease is for that space at
Okay,
120
that
North
makes
Federal.
sense. I just didn't know which
Right.
did what, and I thought maybe it was like from 9 to 5, the real people do it, and then 5 on, the.
Yeah, so all
Big
of the, yeah,
people.
7 days a week,
Okay.
the calls all go into the IVR. If it's an outage call, it's handled. It'll recognize your information, it'll say thank you. If you want to get to a person, it'll get to a live person. That's that first point of contact, customer service representative. Right now, it's at Enco, and I'm glad to report those calls continue to be answered in under a minute or under 2 minutes right away. You don't have to.
They're the ones that we're getting rid of though.
Yes. So if you need to escalate, it goes to 120 North Federal, second floor. The folks on the second floor. If you want to go there in person, you go to the downstairs. So this lease covers both of those spaces, the downstairs and the upstairs at 120 North Federal for 2 years.
Most of the time when we hear from people, it's like Friday afternoon and their tenants are moving in and there's no electricity and they gave a deposit, but what happened to it? And those are tough questions because it is the weekend. They may have paid
Right.
their money and they don't have any power, so we don't know what to do with that.
Correct. What often happens in those cases is that the customer service representative, they suddenly they want to open an account and so the customer service representative, okay, are you the owner or are you a tenant? If you're a tenant, do you have a signed lease? Is there a business tax receipt on the property? So if those boxes are all checked, they cannot open the account. Many cases, it could be somebody who's trying to make a payment before the weekend. Now, so they don't get shut off, but they can go to any of the Pay Near Me locations, 7-Eleven, the Walmart, CVS. I forget, there's a few more, and make a payment at those locations with their bill.
And that'll instantly get credited, they won't get turned off.
It instantly gets credited and the list updates by, I believe, I want to say about 5 a.m. in the morning, and the cuts don't happen until after about 7:30 in the morning. So the system, before they make cuts for the day, they'll check to make sure that all the payments have come in. So they're not cutting somebody who made a payment at midnight, right? That's what we're trying to do.
And that happens on the weekend, so if I'm.
We don't cut on weekends.
Okay, well, thank you, that's why we know.
Right. And we don't cut on a holiday
I have a couple questions, so are you?
or on the eve of a holiday.
I just wanted to understand.
Okay, Christmas, no, actually, okay, a couple questions, have we made a an ultimate decision, because I know we're working on the annex or paying the annex. Have we made a decision about, are we gonna put customer service back in the annex? Or are we gonna look at other uses for the annex, because it seems like if financially, if this makes sense, it's nice to have like a place that people can go and use the annex for, you know, in the new modern place that we're renting. And use the annex for more cultural neighborhood community sort of.
We await direction from you all on
That's
where
what I
you would
wondered.
like
I
us to
think
be.
we did it around, well,
We don't have an emotional attachment to the building. It's not that we don't want to be there. If it's renovated, I'm sure it'll be wonderful.
Right.
But my anticipation is that there'll be so many other uses that this group and the public might see for that building that we won't go back. But if you decide that we should go back, we'll go back.
Yeah, I mean, the new building has parking, it's a little more convenient, it's Yeah.
And it's, from what you hear from all of your people, it's working well at this location, or you wouldn't be asking for police.
It seems to be working well. There's, little things we'd like the bathrooms to be renovated and cleaned more often. We'd like the air conditioning to work a little bit more reliably, but it's much better than the space that we were in. It-
City Hall.
So it's better than where we were. And it suits our needs and it's a convenient location. We wish there was more parking there, but it's, it's a downtown location, but it
Mr. Brown, do you have something productive?
Good evening. Yeah, so we are still in the process right now of the overall building assessment for the annex. We actually had a meeting out there week before last. Once we have the overall estimate of probable costs, because we're gonna have to do an elevator and some other things, WADA, a lot of things there, it's not gonna be cheap. But we're gonna have to have that overall discussion, when we're looking at that price tag. What is the vision for this facility in the future? So that will be forthcoming, and that's what Ed was mentioning. I'm wondering, that's something we need to customer service back in there. There are a lot of ideas of different things that you're saying, more cultural things that can be done in that facility. So it's going to be a much larger citywide discussion as far as where some departments need to reside permanently. We actually don't want to lease space forever. So
When we get our new city hall.
that starts 3 weeks from now.
What?
The construction starts 3 weeks. From now.
Glad to hear it, glad to hear it.
I mean, I think there's like one day left in September, so if you'd like to, make another meeting for us.
Okay, so, and, the other question I had about the lease, there's no option to renew it. So it's a 2-year lease, but there's no ongoing option to renew, it seems, and I wondered if that was something we might want to consider.
That's a good question. I'm assuming they would always be willing to entertain having us stay. What we do have to do is to look at this over that 2-year period and long before we get to the 2-year period, decide, do we want to stay?
But an option just gives us the kind of time.
Right.
Seems like an option.
Off the top of my head, I don't know if there's an option in the contract or not.
Excuse me, Nanette McTeague is on the phone if you have any questions for her.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
under.
Nanette is our customer
The
service
lease
manager.
term
She
shall
may have some
hereby be
thoughts.
extended for an additional 2-year term with a new lease expiration of 2026, but it doesn't say
Right.
anything else.
Right, I mean, I generally put in a option to renew.
Can we give direction of that option?
Because what it does, then you kind of lock in the percentage of.
Let me ask the voice in the sky. Nanette is on the phone. Nanette, do you know there's an option to renew in that contract?
There isn't.
She might be muted.
She's not,
Okay.
Nanette, can you hear us? No.
We can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear us.
Okay. So
Can we give direction? to
If it's not too late, I would give me, I think, today.
You always ask.
Yeah.
Great attitude.
So do you want us to come back to you again, or are you approving subject to us trying to put an option to renew in there?
Based on your conversations, I mean, do you think it's gonna be a problem?
I don't know, and that's been.
And it's been the months doing it.
I would say approve.
No, I would say non-approve, because if we approve it, then we don't have the options. I mean, if it's not time sensitive for us to do it at the next meeting in September.
We could bring it back to you at the first meeting in September, even though it might not be utility related.
Yeah.
Well, the first meeting in September is going to be the second meeting in September.
Right.
Right.
There is no.
it would be September 17th.
Is that soon enough for the?
Or we could say that if you can get the renewal in, we approve it. If not, bring it back to us.
No.
So you're saying
No.
approved, subject to the inclusion of a renewal option.
Yes,
Yes.
that's what I said.
If they won't agree, just bring it back away.
You want somebody, you need to amend the
I'm-
motion.
Mr. Diaz, right?
Yeah, so amended.
I did.
He was first, second is.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, who made the motion?
Yeah.
Commissioner Diaz made the motion,
And I just
Commissioner Day
amended,
seconded it.
so amended with their
So let's
changes.
get more
yeah.
specific about them.
And the
Mr.
current,
lawyer.
the current lease is expiring September 1.
Oh, that's not
That,
good.
that was
Yeah.
my.
Yeah. Well, I would say, I mean, too bad, if,
You figure.
I mean, it's too bad that it wasn't included, but,
Is there a grace period?
no. I mean, we don't think we're pretty good customers, to have that much space in that building, they probably want us to stay there.
Let me add to that. With the interim city manager Brown, staff is having a discussion with respect to all of our housing needs in terms of office space, given the staffing that we need for the execution on the grant that's coming up.
Right.
The housing that we'll need or office space that we'll need for leisure services. And with things moving around, we need to think about space requirements. We're not going to have city space for all of the seats that we need to create over the next few years, right? So we need to have a strategy. So we've been talking about that. So we will be looking at this long before the next expiration, say, do we want to continue there? Do we want more space in that building? Not just for customer service, but for other city functions.
Is it for sale?
I was just gonna say, that might be who has a purchase.
But Jamie's wondering, why are we going down this path right now? But there's a bigger space discussion to be had, which Jamie will be leading us through. While it'd be great to have the option to renew, we have to look at this in the context of where are we gonna run all of these operations out of in the future.
All right, I would say, I mean, it doesn't seem like it was, nobody thought of it beforehand, so we can always do another amendment to the lease to include the option, so if we get it now, we lock it into the 3% for the next few years. We could always do a second amendment, which is added an option.
I think that's the way to do it because September 1st.
Yeah,
Obviously is so far we've been really good tenants and I think being really good tenants, they would want to renew it, but if,
let's do that. Then then there's another
Yeah.
constraint on
So
the,
just leave it how it is.
leave it how it is and come back with, try to do. it.
potential other than amendment.
Are we withdrawing the amended motion?
No amendment.
No amendment, it's just straight up
Original motion to approve.
with consensus to try to get another. Yeah, okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, very good. Next up is work order number 10 with Hooper Corp to provide construction services for the Gulf Stream and First Avenue South System hardening and voltage conversion project. Motion approved, from Malega.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes, of course. All,
Who was the first and second?
May and Maliga. You can put
Okay.
your order. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, everyone.